what's going on in the world of Voivod in 2012. We were quite busy actually. We started the year going to Chile and then for a festival, and then immediately after we flew to Tilburg in Holland because we were curators for Roadburn. And then but actually prior to that, in February, we recorded a new album. We were hoping to release it in October for this tour, but it was pushed back to January 2013 for the 30th anniversary of Voivod. So the summer was spent pretty much playing festivals in Quebec at home. Yeah, it's been with the album, and now it's been a bit of a busy year so far, but I think it's going to be busier next year because of the release of the album. I think that a good description would be lost in space but present. You know, like I'm here but I'm somewhere else. Like that's the closest I can think of in English actually. Metal scene, I would say the thrash metal scene has gotten a little more popular the last few years, where younger people will have like a lot of patches of old school thrash metal bands, Destruction, Creator, Voivod, Celtic Frost, Possess, and all the people we used to tour with, Testament, and I think that I would say it probably has a lot to do with the fact that the thrash metal scene was influenced by hardcore a lot, and a lot of the lyrics were socially oriented as opposed to let's say, the Sunset Strip scene in LA, much more glam, or the thrash metal scene had a lot to do with fear of nuclear war, and which is still relevant today. So we see lots of kids into thrash metal nowadays, and we see a lot of newer, younger bands that are influenced by bands from the 80s, like Exciter, and definitely a revival. We've noticed since we reformed in 2008 that we ourselves have gotten a bit more popular the last 5 years. Reformed in 2008, it was mainly because we reformed with the original bass player, Blackie, and Snake is still in the band, and our good friend Dan from the band Martyr, very good death metal technical band. He joined the band in 2008, but originally it was the main goal was to play the thrash metal material from the 80s. So we spent a couple of years doing that. We played all the festivals everywhere, and eventually we felt comfortable enough to give it a go at songwriting. So we spent a year and a half, I would say, writing material that is very reminiscent of Damage and Hatros. Very intricate, progressive, still thrash, a lot of psychedelia, and so lyric-wise, it's again not a big departure of what we were talking about back then, because it's still going on, you know, the nuclear threat and all that, and destruction of the earth, pollution. So it's pretty much same subjects, but yeah, I would say in a more modern era, because back when we were doing the real thrash metal thing in the 80s, it was the Reagan years with Chernobyl accident and Challenger explosion and Star Wars project and all these technological things going on nowadays. Um, well, come to think of it, there was the nuclear accident in Japan, and so it's not that different, but there is more information available online and on the 24 hours news channels on TV. So there is a lot to pick from nowadays if you want to write a concept album or it's like just a modern version of what we were really 25 years ago. 80s, we didn't really have access to digital technology, Pro Tools, and a lot of it had to be done in 1 or 2 takes. So there was the urgency that we find hard to find. We find hard to get now because of Pro Tools. You can literally decorticate the recording and switch things around. And back then, if you wanted to have effects, there was a lot of tape loops, manipulation, and a lot of it had to be done manually. And nowadays, it's much easier to record and fine-tune everything. But if you do it too much, you can sterilize the music, so you have to be careful. So I kind of miss the urgency of like having to record in Berlin and do it in like 3 or 4 days, you know. But on the other hand, the technology is so wonderful that we can't really ignore it nowadays. And plus, you sort of have to sound state of the art, so we need to use the best equipment possible if we want to compete with other bands, because we are still very underground and we're competing with bands that are more popular than we are. So we try to use all the new technological elements as much as we can. Yeah. Tonight we're going to be playing 3 songs, one of which is the single Mechanical Mind that's available on a 7-inch. We are also playing Target Earth, which is the title track of the album, and we are playing a song called Kluskap Okon. It's native from Quebec, Micmac tribe, and it's pretty much my favorite on the album because it's very punk, and that's my favorite type of music. So that's my favorite on the album. And we also have a French song, our very first French song on the album, which is great. So we are playing 3 of them tonight. Start again, because I did it for every album. So it's sort of well, first we wanted to have something space related, and then there was a crazy year in Montreal where the students rebelled against the government because of educational fees, you know, and they were like they were doing a lot of protests in the street and downtown where I live, and there were many like sometimes 250,000 people in the street with police, mass arrest and all that, and a lot of helicopters. So slowly, while I was doing the art, it sort of got a new twist where it's more some sort of destroyed city, and it's more reminiscent of my early art actually. It's less space than the last few albums and more like punk metal, you know, like yeah. and with a lot of sci-fi elements as well. Really changed my life, you know. Would probably, I mean, at first when I was really young, I really got into the Beatles, especially Rubber Soul album, and then for Christmas in the mid-70s I got Kiss Alive 1. It really changed my life. And then maybe a couple of years after, Nevermind the Bollocks by the Sex Pistols came out, and it was a huge influence for me. I started to play more like on the toms, on my drum, you know, because of that. And in 1980, the first Iron Maiden album came out, and I bought it just because of the cover. But when I played it at home, it included all my favorite elements, you know, it had a bit of punk, a bit of gothic rock, a lot of metal, of course, and a bit of progressive rock, like Phantom of the Opera. And, so that was something that really influenced me a lot visually as well. Like not long after that, Discharge came out, you know, and that was quite influential for me because I was not aware of everything that was going on in Europe, so reading the lyrics, and I learned a lot about nuclear stockpiles everywhere and stuff like that. And so that would be like 5 albums that really influenced me, but I should really mention my favorite band of all time. It's called Van der Graaf Generator. They're from England. It's very obscure progressive rock, and I still listen to them pretty much daily. And they reformed actually, and came to Montreal this year, this summer, and was blown away. And a very, very good band. Well, you know, all of the Voivod lovers, you know, I have to thank these people because they are really the reason why I keep coming back, and I meet the same friends every time we come around. Like since the mid-80s, I keep meeting the same people. They've become very good friends. So it's really hard for me to, at times, to stop playing music and stop traveling for 2 or 3 years, and I really miss everybody that I run into, and they are very loyal to Voivod, and thank you.